Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Wendy Joe, and I am the chair of the IDBF Youth Commission. So we have here a panel of 3 people from different countries. And this was organized by the Youth Commission in order to talk about youth development in different countries, to gain different perspectives, and to talk about the different challenges and considerations that are involved in youth racing in Dragon Boat, because youth is the future of any sport, and a healthy sport relies on the strength of its young athletes. So this is something that we thought would be a good idea to get the discussion going. It's something that we've done in Canada as an example, and we thought it would be good to bring it to the world stage. So the commission generally works to support all youth athletes, including junior, 2-4U, and university, to enhance racing opportunities and support the development of young athletes for different teams and nations. And we thought it'd be nice to have something of a discussion with this fireside chat format to talk about the unique challenges and considerations. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our panelists and our speakers today. So first we have Brandon Lee from Trinidad and Tobago, and he's actually also a member of the Youth Commission. He is part of the Aquaholics Dragon Boat Club and has also competed on the Trinidad and Tobago national team in Tampa in 2011. We also have Charlie Baird, who is a member of the Sydney Zodiacs from Australia, and she also coaches the Scholastica team. She's been a member of the Australian national team twice and has most recently captained the team in Thailand in 2019, at our most recent World Nations Championships. And then finally, we have Margaret Lingad, who is a member of the Los Angeles County Dragon Boat Club from the United States, and she's also a member of the US Junior National Team from Thailand in 2019 as well. She's currently also a student at the University of Las Vegas in Nevada. So welcome to all 3 of you, and thank you so much for joining. So I'd like to go to each of our panelists and ask them to talk a little bit about their Dragon Boat backgrounds and to give a bit of an introduction for themselves, how they got started in Dragon Boat. So Charlie, I'll start with you.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. I started dragon boating in 2014. I followed one of my older sisters who had started a couple of years before that as well. She went to like a come and try day that my current coach now was running in Sydney, and she fell in love with it. And then I waited until the day I turned 12, which is as early as at that time you could do it in Sydney. And I jumped on a boat a couple of days after my 12th birthday. And have been doing it ever since then. I did, as you said, Oz in first campaign was in France in 2017, and then again in Thailand in 2019. My younger sister as well. So it's become like a part of our family and everything that we do a lot of the time.
That's amazing. It's a whole family affair. It's a good way to keep activities together.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go next to Margaret.
Hello. So I started when I was 7. Actually, my uncle was actually a coach for like a blind team. So one day he woke me up and he was like, "Hey, you want to come paddle with us?" I was like, "Sure, like why not?" So I came in like sweatpants, my running shoes, and like a scarf because I thought it was like, oh, it's gonna be so cold because it's out in the water, but it was not. It was like super hot. So yeah, so now when I started paddling, my siblings saw me and they were like, "Oh, I also want to paddle too. It seems so fun." So we all 3 of us started paddling, and my first club crew I would say was Hungary, which my first time racing like internationally, which was amazing. Like it was just so fun, and having to meet all different kinds of paddlers was very like exciting. And recently we went to club crew at Florida, so that was also one of the fun races I have done. And so it was nice meeting you too.
Thanks, Mario. So it sounds like it's a family affair for you too. It's a good way to get involved. And lastly, Brandon, go ahead.
Hi, Wendy and everyone else. So I started Dragon Boat, I believe it was 2010. So gray area there. I had a teacher in school. He knew I used to play a lot of sports, and they were looking for people for their Dragon Boat team. So I started off on a school team, and from there, that was around the same time, Trinidad wanted to go to the World Championships in Tampa on a bigger scale, and they wanted to have a lot of junior teams, so U18 and U24. So from the school team, I continued and on to that national team, and then I just decided, oh, this is fun, and I met a lot of new people and was able to travel, and figured, well, maybe I'll stick with this. And from there, I just continued. I joined the Aquatics Dragon Boat team and continued with them, and then I went to Club Crew in 2014 in Ravenna. But since then, due to work and life, I haven't been able to compete and train as often. So now I'm on the officiating side locally. So that's my way of staying involved in Dragon Boat still, just to be part of it, and now well part of the youth commission to again try to stay involved.
Great, thanks. So we've heard from each of our panelists how they got started into dragon boating. So we can start a little bit more of our discussion. So Brandon, actually, I'll start with you. How big is the youth community in your country? So you mentioned junior and U24 for the Trinidad team. So how many youth athletes are involved in dragon boat in TNT compared to other categories? Is it big? Are there a lot of events dedicated to youth, or is it small? And if it's small, why do you think it's that?
So here there are two main regattas for the juniors. So there would be a schools regatta. So that's mostly U18s and U16s, I believe. And that was the main thing that used to get the juniors involved. And then from there, they would branch on and continue into seniors. And apart from that, we have a bicentennial regatta that's usually every October, and schools are involved in that one as well. So there are quite a bit of school teams. I should say there used to be quite a bit of school teams before the pandemic. So there were a lot of junior athletes there, but the progression into the seniors, it wasn't really there because I guess life and I would say life, yeah. Comparing to other countries on a international level, to travel, no, we don't have that many juniors. I guess that's a financial issue when it comes to traveling like that. Yeah, quite a bit of juniors, I would say.
So you mentioned financial, and finances are a big issue for a lot of young athletes, juniors, 2-4Us, and especially students. So 2-4Us and university students that are kind of just starting to go out on their own. They no longer have their parents' support. So fundraising could be an issue. So Margaret, you mentioned you went to Club Cruise. How did finances impact your team? Did you do any fundraising? Was that an issue for members of your team? Could you talk a bit about that?
So my team, LA County, actually did a lot of fundraising throughout that year. We have jersey fundraising. We also had like food rate fundraising. Like some of the parents did organize like an outing. So for example, one of the parents organized a Panda Express fundraiser. So probably after school, all the kids would go to Panda Express, support like our team or even our family members. And then one time we also had a Shakey's fundraiser. Everyone was there for dinner, just supporting the team. And there's like side fundraisers we also did. Some of the kids did a fundraiser throughout their school. They did like baking cookies, and then they'll just like sell those, and then whatever they had, they'll give half of the team, and probably half will go to like their expenses to travel. So yeah, throughout the whole year, our team did organize some fundraisers to help some of the paddlers who are struggling to go to Sarasota, or some of the parents did pitch in for those like paddlers who are struggling.
And how important would you say that those fundraising efforts were to ensuring that the team was able to go?
I would say very important. It actually really helped with covering like paddle bags going the paddle bags going to Sarasota. It did covers some of the expenses like the snacks or the food that was being pitched in the for us for paddlers. And then it also covered the dinner. I think we had like a team dinner, and then like the team paid for it. So yeah, it did like help a lot for the team, because then the parents, I know parents who has a lot of kids, like for example, my parents has 3 kids they have to like send off to Sarasota. So it was kind of struggle for them. But doing the fundraisers really helped them. So it did help the families who have kids, more than like probably 3 kids. Like the fundraiser helped them cover their kids' expenses.
Thanks. And then Charlie, Australia is basically far from everywhere else, and it's expensive for you guys to travel. Does your team do any fundraising, or how do you guys manage your finances?
Yeah, similar to Margaret, we had some creative fundraisers, I would say, within our club, to get us to even just nationals, not even overseas as well. We did like a Bunnings sausage sizzle, which is a pretty famous way in Australia to raise money, at like our local tools shop. We did a mango drive, which was really different, and I'd never seen it before, which was a lot of fun. So everyone took home like a big box of mangoes and was promoting them. And then we would do like gold coin donations, or gold coin with like chocolate boxes as well, that kids would take to the school, and you could raise up to like $50 to $100 per box. So there were some of the ways that we as well like fundraised within our club, to be able to go to nationals and make everything a bit cheaper for all the parents and everyone who is supporting themselves as well.
What was the mango one? Could you explain that a little bit? Because I think if anybody's watching this and looking for ideas for fundraising for their own teams, that could be helpful.
Yeah, I'm not particularly sure, remember how it worked, but all I remember, on a Saturday morning after training, we had big boxes of mangoes, and people were taking them home, and I'm not sure if they were selling them, or they were maybe we were talking to our friends about buying them. We just had so many mangoes. It was, yeah, a bit different, but very creative, and I think it definitely helped a lot.
Great. So yeah, creative ways to sell, I guess, specialty fruits in your area. One other thing, so we have some students, and I know Margaret, you're a student at university. How do you balance school and paddling? Like being a university student, you have a ton of classes, you have a ton of work, and so many things to balance work and life. How do you do that?
So actually when I was in high school, I would utilize the study halls or like any like study groups they had, so I could like catch up on my work or even get ahead so I don't have to worry about it. And I would like manage my time. So one day it'll be just dedicated to like training, or the next day it would be just studying. But I also would try to get ahead of my work, because I don't like to procrastinate. You know, like if you do procrastinate, like you're just stressed about your homework. So I would just really like manage your time. Like if you're like, for me, like if my homework is due like Saturday, I would try to have it done by like probably Thursday, so I don't have to worry about it that during that time. But yeah, just I did a lot of study halls, study groups. I asked a lot of my friends to help me so I can like catch up if I did miss days, because some races are like out of state. So I would like ask them, hey, can you please help me with this? And they would like gladly help me with like my homework or just catching up on the classes that I missed.
What about you, Charlie? How was this an issue for you, or how were you able to manage?
Yeah, so I was doing dragon boating through my HSC, and we did the Thailand campaign when I was in year 11, which is our second last year of school. So our HSC is like the final exams, I guess, for before you leave high school. And I always saw dragon boating as more of an opportunity to get a break from studying and a break from doing the work. It's unrealistic, I guess, to say that you're going to, in your final years of school or leading up to your final exams, you're going to be studying with your head in a book for the whole time. So I definitely use dragon boating as a bit of an escape. Getting on the water for some of the longer sessions, I'd, catch myself like reading through an essay or like going through my notes in my head just, to pass the time when we were doing some like long nonstop paddles. So it definitely was a good way for me to like have a bit of a break. And as well, a lot of my friends, some of my closest friends did dragon boating and we all did similar subjects. And so, in between sessions, we'd be in the boat and quizzing each other on some of the stuff that we thought might have been in the exams coming up. But yeah, it was always a really good break, a good mental break to be able to get on the water, put the books down, put the pens down and just have a bit of a break. And yeah, I thought always found a lot of comfort in dragon boating during those times.
So you have dragon boat study groups too. And were those friends that you went to school with and also paddled with? Did you keep those friendships throughout the years?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of my closest friends are from dragon boating, and even when we weren't paddling due to COVID and everything, yeah, we've all stayed very close friends with a lot of the people I did dragon boating.
And then Brandon, so I'm assuming you've been maybe a little bit removed from school for a while since you've been working. But how was it for you back when you were on paddling, especially like back when you were on the national team in 2011? How did you manage that?
I did not. I was terrible at it, to be quite honest. I did not do a great job of balancing school and dragon boat. I just focused on dragon boat most of the time. Because from school it was about a hour and a half drive to get to training on an afternoon. So by the time I finished school, there was not much time to do anything. It was just to get down there to train, and then by the time get back home, you're tired, and that's probably just an excuse. I really should have done better, but for me it was pretty difficult to do. But I did plan ahead, and I knew that I would have another chance at some exams later on. So I said, well, okay, I'll try my best right now while I'm training. But if I don't succeed, well, I know that the following year after Worlds, I'll be able to focus a lot more. So I sacrificed the first set of exams and then went harder on the second. But I did not do a good job balancing it all. I can't. No advice on this one.
All right, so maybe not from Brandon, but from Margaret and Charlie, what is one piece of advice that you would give to student drag boaters?
For me, I would really say take time for yourself, because honestly, self-care is very important. If you don't have the right mindset, like your whole mind will just be all over the place. And you need time to relax your body, relax your mind. So probably between study groups, or like even like when you're studying, just take breaks, like little small breaks, have a snack, walk around. It will relax your body and your mind, and like after like you have that break, you'll get back in the right mindset, and that will help you. I mean, that helped me a lot, like taking breaks, just relaxing and just not stressing really helps.
And what do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, similar thing. Just listen to yourself, listen to your body. If you think school is stressing you out, it's okay to take a break and, do some things you love. If dragon boating is stressing you out, same thing, take a break. Just, listen to yourself, stay to keep you motivated.
And then so Brandon, so maybe not on the school front, but since you've been working for a while, how do you think Dragon Boat has influenced your life outside of Dragon Boat? Has it helped you, for example, career, leadership experience, life experience? Could you comment on any of that?
So I would say it has helped with the leadership experience. And then because Dragon Boat people come from all over the country, and then you meet people from other parts of the world. But in particular, the national team, you meet people from all over the country and different backgrounds. So you learn to interact with other people that may not have been in your group. And so taking that towards work now, since I work on a boat and I work with people from all over the world, people have their own different quirks and habits and stuff like that. So through Dragon Boat and dealing with people from then, I'm now able to understand people a bit better and deal with them out here, and maybe have a bit more patience and understanding for between language barriers, or people have different ways of doing things. I got a lot of experience with that from Dragon Boat in particular, because from my previous sporting backgrounds, I just knew you have a goal, get it. There's one way to do it, nothing else. And then coming into Dragon Boat, and you saw other teams have different, whether it be different techniques, or training methods, or whatever it is. And now you can listen and understand and put everything together and make it work better. So that's one thing I definitely took away from Dragon Boat, and I've been able to apply in life and work right now.
That's great. That's fantastic. And Margaret, how do you think you can apply any of the skills that you've learned in Dragon Boat and teams and teamwork into life outside of Dragon Boat?
Well, I've learned many important life lessons from my time as an athlete. One would be that communication is key. Like throughout the whole thing, communication is the key. During and after the race, we would gather up and talk about how it felt in the boat. Strong communication helps everyone stay informed at all times. When I'm in class, my fellow classmates and I will talk about what we did in class, or like what we learned. We would share notes. So like if one of us did miss something, we could write it down and like, oh, hey, we helped each other. But you know, if you don't express communication with each other, then we would just like everyone would just be like falling behind, like we would not know anything. And we wouldn't just have that bond, like everyone would just be like, oh, okay, cool, like we don't have that good bond, like I'm not going to talk to you, so we're not going to be really a team. But if you do have that communication, like everyone will like express how they felt, and that will make the team even like stronger. The bond will be stronger, so in the boat, like everyone be as one, so the boat will like just be strong. But also Dragon Boat has really helped me with my careers, because I would meet different people in our, like LA County has a senior A, B, C, I think. And they would help me because they would talk about their life experience during work, and I would say, oh my God, like that's like I want to do that, but I don't want to do that. So they would walk me through all the work experience they have gone through. And sometimes they would help me, or they would connect me to one of their coworkers so I can apply for a scholarship through them. Or they would just help me through my schoolwork, or walk me through like life experience that I need to go through, so I don't have to be struggling on my own, or I don't have to do it on my own. So I have that support system that really helped me outside and inside of Dragon Boat.
For sure. Communication is super key. Especially you have 20 people who all have different personalities and different ways of thinking, different ways of communicating. So being able to bring that and dealing with different people to real life is an important skill to learn. And I'd also just like to mention that support system of having so many teammates with different careers and different jobs, being able to talk to them, getting experience, listening to their experiences and learning from that is something that's really important. And I would really encourage everybody to take advantage of that. So just jumping on a little bit here, but if you have older or more experienced, or even just other people on your team or in your club that have jobs that you're interested, or just have any jobs, any kind of experience that you might be interested in learning about, to talk to them, because that's how a lot of people that I know have actually been able to get their jobs, or learn about what they like or don't like, or things that they might be interested in. And one of my teams has actually implemented a mentorship system where they pair older paddlers with younger paddlers to give them basically advice and tips on how to succeed in school and later on. So these are all things that you should definitely take advantage of if you're able to. Charlie, I'm going to change directions a little bit, and because you are a two-time national team athlete, so one thing I wanted to ask you was, how can we encourage young athletes to continue Dragon Boat, to keep it up, and to also move up. So from junior to U24 or 24U, sorry, to premier and so on. What are your suggestions or thoughts on keeping that cycle going?
I've always been saying, especially in the last few months, in Australia at least, our trials are going to be coming up soon for the Oz team again, and I can't encourage enough people to go and just give it a go. Like there's not much to lose, so I definitely think that doing Oz and having that experience competing competitively and internationally was really, really life-changing for me and all my friends as well, and that's what really kept us going in the sport. As I coach the Skulls team, there's a lot of young girls, and every single week I ask them who's going to put their hand up. I think they all should. Like it's such a good opportunity to grow, and you get to meet so many cool people around the world and really like develop your love for the sport. I think because you're given sort of time to work on it yourself, you're given benchmarks and stuff to do at home as well. It becomes a part of your life and something that you grow to love so much. So I can't encourage enough people to go put their hand up for Oz or state or a representative team, wherever that may be in your respective area. It's such a good opportunity and such a good way to keep involved in the sport, making those connections and like falling in love with the sport and learning, pushing your limits and learning about yourself is such a good opportunity.
And taking that initiative is a big step, right? So you mentioned, so you coach, and you mentioned encouraging girls to take that initiative too. So Dragon Boat is one of the good sports that promotes, I think, a lot of opportunities for girls and women to participate. And I think Australia was either the first or one of the first to implement the 10-10 for mixed teams. So what advice would you have for young girls moving forward in life?
Well, our club historically has always been female dominated, and now it's only kind of just made this switch. But yeah, dragon boating is great. It's because it is, at least in Australia, it's so small, you don't really feel that like competitive pressure until eventually you do want to step up. So I think it's such a good way to get really active without so much of the pressure or fear of judgment, because some of the more mainstream sports, I get it can be intimidating joining, especially when you're old, and a lot of young athletes have been playing since they were really young. But dragon boating, it is so niche and it is so small in Australia at least. So it's such a good way. There's people are at all different kind of times in their dragon boating journey. People have been doing it for years. Some people have only been doing it for a few months. So I think it's a really great sport to join. If you are a bit older and nervous about joining a new sport, it's the perfect sport to join, I think.
Completely agree. I'll also mention for our audience that we are monitoring the chat on Facebook Live. So if you have any comments, or if you would also like to ask questions yourself, please feel free to write that in the chat. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the webinar, but I forgot. So I'm mentioning it now in the middle of the webinar. Brandon, I'd like to ask you, because so you did, you mentioned you struggled a little bit with school before. So that is something that I think a lot of athletes struggle with, right? With school, and just as you're growing and like learning more about yourselves, what do you think are some of the special considerations that need to be made when you're part of a youth team, when you're running a youth team or founding one? What are some of the considerations that need to be made for youth teams compared to what you would need to do differently from an adult team?
Well, I guess coaches, team managers need to understand that it's student athletes, so student comes first. And some people don't know their future in dragon boat, but you kind of need to have a future with school. So that really should be a priority. And if you have a youth team, I guess you should find out everyone's level, where they're at school, and how they're doing in school, and if they're failing, they're passing, they need any assistance or whatever it is, and work with each athlete to make sure they're at an acceptable level, or they have a plan for going forward. Because like I said, I just focused on dragon boat completely, and I didn't really have anyone to tell me, hey, well, maybe you should slow down a bit on this, and you should focus a bit more on school and put more time and effort into that. It was left up to me, and well, I picked the fun option, which was school. But I do think coaches should find a way to talk to their athletes and just get to know, how they're doing in school, and just keep pushing them, reminding them that this is important. Dragon boat is important as well, but school is really important. And if it helps maybe get groups together, people are on the same age, because you're on the 18 team, on the 24 team, people generally are on the same age, obviously, and maybe the same educational level. So put people in groups who are along the same course of study, whether it be art, business, or medicine, or whether it be whoever's in a lower level of school. Put those kids together and have them study together, and that I think it should help. Like I say, I'm not the greatest when it comes to those, but that really should be more emphasis should be put on student athlete. I would say.
Definitely having that guidance and the priorities, right? Because when you're young, you don't necessarily think about the long term or your future that much. So focus on school, everybody, and make sure that you do well in your studies. But it's also a balance, right? You want to balance fun in life, and you also want to balance your responsibilities. So learning how to balance that will be good for your future as well. Margaret, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but Charlie, what do you think about special considerations for youth teams compared to adult or older than student teams?
Yeah, I think just exercising patience is such a good way to go about it. Learning about your individual paddlers and what kind of feedback they respond to best has become a really valuable asset to me as a coach, as I'm coaching young girls. So learning about each individual paddler, how they kind of respond to some, good positive feedback and praise, or if they respond better to a bit of tough love, I think is super important, and adjusting that kind of leadership style to the person you're talking to. So everyone, as I said before, is at different journeys or different time in their dragon boating journey. Some people maybe are just doing it for fun, and some people want to eventually, compete in international competitions. So just like having conversations with individual paddlers, getting to know them like at a personal level, learning to know how they respond to different types of feedback, I think has become very helpful to me as a coach, and building up a team that's, I trust them and they have trust in me as well.
Thanks. Sorry, my internet connection is like my half year, so hopefully everyone understands that. But Margaret, I had a different kind of you actually, because I know that you do a lot of other kind of paddling other than dragon boat. You do OC as well. So I wanted to ask you, what are some examples of training you do, such as other kinds of paddling or land training, anything like that? Could you talk a little bit about that and what you run for other paths to look at?
So
You're muted also.
okay. So when we do OC training, before practice, we would run a good like 30-minute run. Sometimes we'll do like the sprints like up and down the hill, or we'll do like a long run. And after the runs, we'll do like 5 pull-ups, and then we'll start stretching before getting on the boat. But besides that, when we don't have practice, when I do wake up, I would like just stretch in bed, just like general stretches, like to just help my muscles loosen up for the day. And if I do have time, I'll try to go to the gym for at least like 45 minutes just to have my body going. I'll just do generally just legs, or probably just arms sometimes, just to loosen up, not be all tight during practice. But yeah, and so when we're gonna do Catalina, we're training for that, and we're doing a lot of long sets. So it's like endurance really is like will help, like, so the running will help us with the endurance, like especially with like the switching, like jumping on the boat and then jumping out of the boat. It's like it takes a lot of energy, because being in the water is already cold, and like you have to like wait for the OC6 to like come to you, and you have to pull yourself up and then get with the team. So yeah, like we do a lot of running pull-ups because like you have to pull ourselves up. But yeah, that's like our workout, but not like a lot of lifting weights because I believe you're not supposed to be lifting weights like before like a race. But yeah, we just do general things that will help our body keep be warm.
And then Brandon, what are some of the things that you do or have done outside of a dragon boat for training, if anything?
Outside of dragon boat for training, I used to run a lot. So before training itself on a weekend, I would go for maybe I would like to say a 5K run, but I think it was more like 2.5. On a Saturday and a Sunday before training. And during the week, we also used to have training with the erg, and we would set up a circuit that was for the club team. So we used to do that as well. And then, well, when I'm not doing those things, then I would try to go to the gym for about an hour each day for the week. And that's basically what I used to incorporate into my dragon boat training. It worked well.
What about you, Charlie?
So as a club, I think it's hard for young people to get to the gym sometimes with like age requirements and stuff. So our club would run like land sessions before training sometimes. So if you could make it down, we'd have a couple of the kids and we'd do a circuit just like at the site that we do dragon boating for an hour, so that when we get closer to nationals and stuff, we were running those on before every training session as well. Personally, I definitely don't get in the gym as much as I should, but during on seasons, we would have like competitions within our team. We have like apps that we use to track distances and we can post them, and it's kind of on this app called Runkeeper. So we do runs and post them, and you can comment on your friends' runs and stuff like that. And so that was one of the requirements as well as one of the additional land sessions on top of training.
So one of the themes that I'm hearing from all three of you is runs are a thing, and also those land workouts, right? Because even though it's a water sport, we still do a lot of workouts on land, and that helps with that cross training. I know my teams as well, we do a lot of land training. So running, gym, weights, circuits as well. And as Margaret does, different kinds of paddling. So OC is a great cross-training tool for dragon boat, and it also gives you a lot of feel for the water, individual feel that you might not necessarily get as easily in a dragon boat when you're 20 people. So these are all kind of ideas for teams that are looking to supplement their dragon boat training. One thing that we have in Canada that I think, I'm not sure how popular it is in the rest of the world, but we also have paddle ergs. So they're like these machines similar to rowing ergs that you can paddle on that give you instantaneous feedback. And we also need this because in Canada, we have winter with a lot of snow and ice, so it's hard to get outside. That I know it's a similar concern for some countries and maybe not so much for others. I don't know how much snow you get in Trinidad, but these are just some of the ideas that you might want for training. We had a question from the chat actually. So for student teams, how do you keep membership retention after school is out? So in the summertime, or I'm not sure sort of the cycle in Australia, if you're off in the summer or the winter, but for high school or university, how do you keep retention? How do you keep paddlers going on, including when school's out? Margaret, could you comment?
So some of us do have school, or like some of us do like a sport after school, but usually I know like the kids from LA County, they do try to make practice because they want to like be better. But during summer, like you see a bunch of kids there at the practice site, like they're either running around, like playing with each other. But summertime is like the best time where all the kids come because it's like school is over. But throughout the whole year, you would actually also see a good amount of like kids still coming to practice. It's either Saturday or Sunday, or they'll just do one day. so they can focus on their schoolwork the next day.
What about you, Charlie? What do you think for retention?
So we in Sydney and in New South Wales, all our regattas are at the same location. So we've got all our school teams racing on the same day at the same place with some of the older clubs. So I think just encouraging some of the older students, if you know it's their last year, to go and have conversations with coaches or paddlers from different clubs and get a feel about what clubs' values are and priorities are. And so just encouraging those older students to have conversations if they are keen on continuing the sport, have a conversation with the coach of another club or some paddlers within another club, kind of figuring out where you think you would suit best, and then encouraging them to make that switch to some of the older clubs. It can be scary going from being the big fish to the little fish, but just encouraging them to kind of figure out where they think they'll fit best and moving on into that next step.
We actually have like quite a few questions in the chat now, so I'm just trying to look through some of them. One person has asked, has anyone started a drag boat club at a high school that doesn't have one yet? No, so I'll comment a little bit about that. So I didn't start a club at a high school, but I started one at my university. And it was a lot of work. So some of the advice that I might give to someone that's starting a club or looking to start a club is to do as much reading as possible and to do as much research as you can. So looking to other existing teams, what they did, how they run their teams, and to also look up things like requirements and standards. So especially when you're looking to start a junior team or something at a high school with kids, there's a lot of extra requirements and considerations that adult teams might not have, such as for safety, for chaperones if you're traveling and things like that. So you want to make sure that you have all the safety requirements and that the kids are going to be well taken care of. So do a lot of reading, do a lot of research, but also look to other teams to see how they're run as well. One other question, actually, this is kind of a fun one maybe for the chat. Do you prefer racing peers, so people at the same age or racing category as you are, or do you prefer crushing the adults? Margaret.
For me, I would say both. Actually, I like racing against my peers because I get to see like, oh, how they are, or how our boat is against other age class. But I also like going against adults because, you know, if we beat them, it's like, oh, it's a good feeling. Like at least like we beat an adult team, but also at the same time, it's kind of scary to race against them because they have more experience than us. But I prefer both. Like I don't mind racing against an adult team or my peers because you get like the adrenaline going. So like your teammates were like, oh, let's win. Like, so it's just fun to race both because then you can say, oh, I beat an adult team or I beat this kind of team. But yeah.
Brandon, what do you think? So you mentioned that there are junior races. Are those just for juniors, or do you also have races that are combined with adult teams as well?
No, it's just juniors. So because there's so many junior teams, when they all come together for their regatta, it will just be juniors. So no need to mix. But personally, I don't know. I've been on the 18 team that raced on the 24 team, just for fun, and that was fun because we beat them. But if it was 24 adults or age group, once I win, I'm happy. To be quite honest, it's all about winning.
Fair enough. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely prefer a mix as well. I like being given the opportunity to kind of compare up to people our age, or especially when I was racing in juniors, being able to see how you compare to different people your age. But then I also love the opportunity to race against and then also just watch and learn from some of the older clubs who are maybe a little bit more serious or professional than our club, especially at the most recent nationals. There was a very small junior competition, and we had like a fun little activity in the middle of each race day where we'd get all of the under 24s and juniors from across different clubs, and we all kind of up into different boats and did a race a day, which was really, really fun. But then, yeah, I also liked being able to watch some of the older clubs race, especially in 2Ks when it's, you know, definitely a spectator race. It was really good to watch them all race as well.
For sure, I agree with all of that. So some of the themes I'm hearing from all three of you is that a good mix of racing is good. So you both want to compare with people around, let's say, the same age and experience as you, but also it's great to paddle it against everybody else as well. So to paddle against adults and to compare against the greater community. So to have that nice balance. And in Canada, as an example, we do have that. So we'll have our nationals that has age category divisions, but at most of the local regattas, there'll be just a mixture of all categories together. Some will have junior specific races or university specific races, but a lot of them will just be general. And so having that mixture, if you're able to, is really important to have that balanced experience. And then another question from the chat is, how would you excite another teen or young adult about Dragon Boat? So we talk about a lot of the things that like we've gained from Dragon Boat, but how would you motivate people and how would you get them interested in Dragon Boat? Brandon.
I think you can just tell them about the Worlds or Club Crew and be like, hey, you can go to this place, you can go to that place. I think that will get almost anybody on board, to be quite honest.
Margaret, what do you think?
Well, for us, we do have videos during racing or even practice. So we would show like other kids or like other young teens who are wanting to paddle. So they'll see those videos like, oh my gosh, that looks like a fun sport to do, or like it looks tiring, but I want to try. But we also, as like older paddlers, we also talk about our experience. So I think they're also motivated from our experience. Like I actually want to do that, or I want to travel to a different country or state to just do Dragon Boat so I can experience that world-class racing, or just experience that whole racing with my teammates.
And I'll add a little bit to that. So especially for young teams, having a lot of rivalry with other teams. So in school teams, you'll have football or soccer or hockey and different sports like that. And there's a lot of rivalry between teams that they get excited about. And in Canada, we have like a very healthy 2-4U or university system. And part of why it's very competitive is these teams have a very strong hatred for each other, which is friendly, but it's very strong, passionate hatred because it's a rivalry between them. So getting them excited about competing against other people of the same age, of, you know, different schools or things like that, is also another way to get them interested and motivated. So to promote that kind of like school spirit and team spirit. We don't have much time left, so I kind of want to end going from that international note that Brandon had mentioned. So from each of you, what has been one of your most memorable international racing moments? Brandon, just because you're the first one that brought it up, I'll ask you first.
I'm thinking. Memorable. I'm not sure if I have a standout. To be quite honest, I'm trying to draw back because I've been to Tampa, I've been to Hungary, I've been to Italy. I think my standout moment for me was just holding the flag in Ravenna when we did the whole lap around the course for the opening ceremony. That was a standout moment for me. And then other than that, combining all of them, just meeting people from other countries was quite exciting. But to put my hand on one, can't think of exactly one. Just too many.
Too many. Charlie, what about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a bit last night, and definitely the biggest standout moment was, it wasn't even a race I was in, but in Thailand in 2019, it was pretty much just competition between Australia, Canada, and the USA, because the Thailand juniors were so much further ahead of all of our boats always. And so, if you got second in a race, we kind of took it as a first because they were just so far ahead. But there was one race with our under 16 girls. So I was an under 18 in Thailand, but our under 16 boat, it was like the first heat, I think, for the 500s in the women's. And the under 18s would all come off the water, and we were standing at kind of that like viewing tent, just watching the race. Again, it was only Thailand and the Aussie team in that race. And so we were expecting what we'd been seeing the last few days, where the Thai team finished, way further ahead of our girls. But as they got kind of down the race course, everyone kind of realized at the same time that it was really close, and the energy just like picked up straight away. Everyone was like screaming and crying, and then they beat the Thai team by just like a dragon's whisker, and all of us just like ran down to the water and were screaming and crying, and the girls didn't even realize that they'd won yet. So they were all like looking at each other confused. It was such a good feeling.
And Margaret, what was your standout moment?
I would also say Thailand because like the first few days, I know our women's boat was crying out of frustration because we were like last place, and like all of the girls were like, yeah, we're gonna lose all this race. So we were just crying. Our frustration was just like skyrocketed. But after first few days of like just getting all like the nervous wrecks out, just like getting through like all the races, our junior B team actually won gold, so for the 200. So that was a memorable moment because I know all the ladies on that boat was like all of our tears and frustration was paid off because we actually won like a split seconds against Thailand. So we were just happy. We are like, oh, like finally, like we have that medal. Like even though if we didn't get gold, at least we placed. But yeah, like the ladies were like, yes, like our frustration is out the door. Tears are finally paid off, or like hard work is paid off. So I think that's one of the memorable moments I had at Thailand, and coming out of Thailand, friendships like were made because of that.
And the last question I have, because we're basically out of time, but I'll ask this anyway. And it'll be an open question to any of you who wants to answer. What are you most looking forward to for the next Worlds event? For those of you that are interested in coming or trying out for the team, because I know a few of you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have been chasing that feeling from Thailand or since our last campaign because of COVID, and we haven't been able to travel in a while. So I've definitely been chasing that feeling of getting in a boat and having that competitive edge, I guess, again. So yeah, just being able to be in a boat with people who want to be there and who want to get better and work as a team, and obviously traveling and stuff again will be very exciting.
Anyone else want to comment?
And to piggyback from Charlie, I would also say like just experiencing again like how the adrenaline and racing against all these international teams is I look forward to, because I just want to like have fun again, and I just want to experience traveling with my team because I know our team is super fun to travel with because the kids are crazy. But yeah, just racing again at such a high level sport is fun and a very good experience for young paddlers because they get to see how each country train, or just how every country is, like how they represent themselves.
Does that reflect your experience as well, Brandon?
I would like to say yes, but because of work, I can't look that far ahead for World. So hopefully I can be there in one, either between being an athlete or an official or something like that, just to be part of it. But I can't say that I can look that far ahead just yet.
Yeah, and so we will hopefully have our next World event in 2023. And as you, the audience, can hear, there's a lot of excitement for it, especially with the past few canceled events from 2020 and 2021. We just had Sarasota this year, and I think all teams had a ton of fun, and it was a great experience for those that went. So we are looking very much forward to seeing you all there. Part of it is racing with your team, and part of it is meeting all the new athletes and the new friends that from other countries that you wouldn't get a chance to any other way. So looking very much forward to seeing you all there. Before we end, I wanted to just thank each of our panelists. So Charlie, Brandon, Margaret, you've all been great. It's been really wonderful to see the different perspectives and experiences from different teams in different countries. Thank you so much for sharing. And also thank you to our very fantastic Sylvia and Belinda, who have been behind the scenes, helping to set up this entire webinar, to promote it, to run all the technical stuff behind the scenes. So thank you very much to both of you. And also thank you to the other members of the Youth Commission. So that's Qingtao Kong from China, Nathan Salazar from the US, Esther Lin from US Thailand, and also Brandon, who is also on the Youth Commission to represent TNT. We also have Sue Holloway from the Athletes Commission, who also joins in on our Youth Commission calls. Thank you to everybody for joining. And I forgot to also mention we have Laura Hennessy from Australia as well on the commission. So everybody on the Youth Commission works to support Youth Dragon Boat and to promote opportunities for this. So if you are interested in learning more about the commission, if you have other questions, if you have suggestions for us, you can find my contact information on the IDBF website on the commissions page. Look for the Youth Commission, look for my name, and send me an email. I'll be very happy to connect with you. And other than that, I will hopefully see you next year. Thank you so much to all of you for listening and for joining us today, and have a great morning, evening, afternoon, weekend, whatever time it is in your country. Thanks.